Hey folks, welcome to Moment of Clarity Live. Thanks for joining me for the live stream. It's wonderful to share these airwaves with you fellow humans, you fellow waves of energy, but you're the right waves of energy. That's what matters, You're not there's a lot of wrong waves of energy out there and you're the good ones. You're the ones I like. So here's what we will be talking about today. And I'll give you a little sampling.
And he was killed. You're here to lecture about media freedom when you insult the dictatorship that murders journalists and murders innocent people. You have blood on your hands because of your lies.
That's what we're talking about today. Who is that guy, folks? And why is he yelling? What's he so uppity about? What's he upset about? What's going on there? I will get into that right about now. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for being here. So that man's name is Walter Smolaric, and he stood up at something called the Summit of the Americas that Joe Biden and his administration put on in Los Angeles just the other day. And Joe Biden and his administration, and let's be honest, Joe Biden doesn't actually know where he is, what's going on, what his name is. So he has people around him. He has a deep state. He has a bunch of yes men, except kind of the yes men become the men that actually make the decisions, because Joe Biden is probably facing a wall right now being told it's a television. So anyway, Joe Biden and his administration put on this Summit of the Americas that was supposed to be, it's part of the U.S. puppet show to make it look like the U.S. government gives a flying shit about the people of Latin America in a way that they want to be helpful. And they do. The U.S. government actually very much, and the deep state and the military-industrial complex very much does give a shit about Latin America in the sense that they want to own it. They want to steal the resources. They want to fuck over the people. They want to privatize everything. They want to crush those people under debt, under an ocean of debt. And they have succeeded in doing that to many, many of the countries down there. And the ones they haven't, they continue to effort towards that. And Joe Biden and his administration put together, you notice they've been kind of focused on creating a proxy war in Ukraine, fighting Russia, fighting China, rather than global cooperation, a global effort to help each other, to help our fellow humans, to make sure everyone is happy and comfortable and can pursue their meaning in life, their being, their passion for what it is they care about, what it is they want to do in life, rather than being trapped under a day-to-day effort to just survive. Rather than doing that, they've been focused on a proxy war and fighting Russia, fighting China. So Joe Biden and his administration had kind of failed to pretend to be doing anything positive in Latin America. Behind closed doors, they very much have been thinking about Latin America. They thought about how they can crush various countries there, how they can continue to try and coup Venezuela or Nicaragua or Bolivia, or continue to crush Haiti. I realize that's kind of out of Latin America, more towards Caribbean nations. But they haven't done anything really public. There hasn't been much public discussion of Latin America. And so they put on this Summit of the Americas in Los Angeles the other day. And they invited a bunch of countries. And even NPR had to admit that it was not looking so good. NPR, as you know, normally a mouthpiece for the administration, a mouthpiece for the U.S. government. So here we go. Biden is hoping the Summit of America, but Mexico's president won't be there. And NPR talks about how Mexico boycotted it. Also, and here's another article, this one coming from Multipolarista, an excellent outlet put out by journalist Ben Norton. If you want to get these stories, not NPR, because we don't give in to that liberal corporate garbage funded by Chevron pieces of shit. I don't do that. So radindymedia.com is a website that has all the good sources like Multipolarista that I'm about to show you. So here's something from Multipolarista to give you a sense of how that summit went. U.S. government summit of the Americas fails. Boycott by presidents of Mexico, Bolivia, Honduras, and Guatemala. So those are all the ones that boycotted, that didn't show up. You can't really have a summit about Latin America without Mexico, Bolivia, Honduras, and Guatemala. And furthermore, they didn't, you're not going to find this to be a surprise, but the U.S. didn't invite Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua. They didn't want those countries to be there because those countries represent throwing off the U.S. capitalistic chains, throwing off those chains and being your own country, having your own sovereignty, treating your own people in a way that you see fit rather than just giving in to the garbage that is put forward by the U.S. government. So this is what so the summit is a piece of shit. I mean, it just collapses. It's and Abby Martin, who I'm going to show a clip from as well in a moment, she went to it as well. Many of these excellent journalists that I know or have met at some point, awesome journalists, Abby Martin, Eugene Perrier, Walter Smolaric, they were all there. And Abby Martin talked about how it was basically empty. There was like watching Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State, the U.S. Secretary of State, was about 30 people were there to see him. Because it, and here's the key point that I think a lot of people are not making, that it was designed from the get-go, from the start, to be a show, to be just a false theater. It was political theater to make it look like the United States gives a shit about Latin America. But of course they don't. And so they didn't invite the countries I just listed. Several other countries boycotted. And then people didn't even care to show up to hear I mean, the U.S. state has lost so much credibility. No one respects them. I mean, they are pieces of shit that are destroying the world, and they're destroying average Americans as well. The average American can't afford healthcare, can't afford housing, can't afford rent, is taking gig economy jobs that treat the workers like pieces of garbage just so they can get by. So why would we respect the ruling elite, the people at the top, the people that are making these choices, or are making the choice to just ignore your average Americans and not help them at all? So let me get to that clip. Let me get to the clip I showed at the beginning. This is, so Walter Smolaric, he works on an excellent program called the Socialist Program, hosted by Brian Becker. And if you want to keep up with the Socialist Program, that is also at radindiemedia.com. I'll put the radindiemedia.com website in the comment section here. It's all free there. Eleanor Goldfield and I created it to basically just show you awesome media. And you can go there every day of the week if you want and find cool shit. Because our media is, let's be honest, a dumpster fire. Whatever a dumpster fire that then explodes is, I don't know, but that's what it is. So let's get to this clip of Walter Smolaric. And I got to set up who he was yelling at. Who was he yelling at and why? It was not Anthony Blinken, actually. It was Luis, forgot his last name for a minute. Luis Almagro, who is the Secretary General of the OAS, the Organization of the Americas, which is a group of countries that get together, kind of like picture NATO, but it's in Latin America, and it's only countries that are basically puppet states of the United States. So all of the U.S. puppet states, and there's a lot of them in Latin America, right? Or at least, like in the case of Brazil, you might not say U.S. puppet state, but it's aligned in the U.S. having a fascist Bolsonaro down there. And so that would be another example. But many of these countries are essentially U.S. puppet states like Colombia. And so they have this organization which is designed to help these countries. But the real reason that OAS exists is to try and help the U.S. create coups, create regime change in various countries in Latin America that it's upset with or that it wants to steal the resources of. So one of the best examples is Bolivia, because we both saw the U.S.-backed coup a couple of years ago, and then we saw the overturning of the U.S.-backed coup because the people in Bolivia fucking fought back, stood up, and would not accept the coup. So in Bolivia, just a few years ago, they had an election. Evo Morales wins, and then the OAS announces that it's not a legit election, when in fact it was legitimate. And this, and the New York Times goes along with it, and Reuters, and everyone say, oh my God, not a legit election. And then, of course, there was U.S. funding of various groups within the country and very violent groups. So those groups then unite. I'm not saying there weren't legit protesters. In any country, you're going to have legit protesters that, for one, misunderstand what the fuck's going on, or that have been tricked into thinking this is the best way forward, whatever it is. But so a group of legit protesters align with, violent right-wing fascist forces. And in Bolivia, there's a bunch of violence, there's killing, there's journalists that are killed, there's people, mayors of towns that supported Evo Morales, dragged out of their homes and dragged through the streets and tortured, essentially. And so all this shit's going on, and it succeeds in getting the government to flee, and Bolivia ends up being the result of a U.S.-backed coup, U.S. and OAS-backed coup. And the people of Bolivia, though, didn't accept it. They kept fighting back, and they kept fighting back. And within a year, maybe it was a little over a year, they were able to vote out the coup party, the U.S.-backed coup party, and bring back in the party of Evo Morales. So I want to show this clip, and it is so Walter stands up in this summit while Luis Almagro is trying to speak, and I'm gonna play almost the whole clip. It's like over 3 minutes long, because I want to show you, first of all, Walter has a lot of important things to say, but also I want to show you how fucking brilliant he was, because in most of these instances, you normally are tackled by some security guard, or somebody fucking punches you in the nads in the first 30 seconds. You're like, you stand up and you're like, George Bush, you are a murderer. And then fucking 12 security guards are on you. Someone shoves a balled up thing of socks in your mouth, and then a fucking blindfold's put on you, and you're carried out and thrown into a waiting windowless van. It all happens very quick. So this was a rarity. And this also shows what a fucking catastrophe the summit of the Americas was, that there were very few people there, very few security, anything. It was like a fucking PTA meeting. You basically had the Secretary of State of the United States at a PTA meeting, because they didn't give a shit about this thing to begin with. The whole reason they created this thing was to have some kind of theater about how they care about Latin America. Bullshit. Anyway, Walter Smolaric goes on for several minutes, and despite the fact that it takes that long for them to tackle him or drag him out, he keeps going, and he has no shortage of facts and information. So here he is, and trust me, you'll enjoy all 3 minutes.
Innocent people, you have blood on your hands. Because of your lies, there was a coup in Bolivia, a coup against the democratically elected government, and that dictatorship that you helped install massacred 36 people, 36 innocent people who are protesting for the restoration of their democracy, for the restoration of the independence of their country. And the towns of Sacaba and Secata, people were protesting peacefully, indigenous people, workers, women, students. demanding the restoration of that democracy that you helped destroy. Destroy because the United States wanted to plunder the resources, the lithium, the gold, all of the mineral resources, the gas of Bolivia, the corporations in Wall Street in the United States wanted to loot the resources of Bolivia. And so you helped install a dictatorship that would facilitate that looting. In Sacaba and Secata, dozens of people were massacred by the soldiers of your dictatorship. The soldiers of your dictatorship. And one of the people that your dictatorship murdered was a journalist, Sebastian Moro. He was a journalist who was exposing the lies that you were telling and exposing the truth about the coup that you orchestrated, and he was beaten to death in his apartment. And now you come here and dare to lecture about media freedom, about democracy, about human rights. You have no shame. You're a murderer, and you're a puppet of the United States. A puppet of the United States. In Venezuela, too, you dared to support the coup attempt that Juan Guaido ridiculously, outrageously tried to attempt and declare himself the president of Venezuela. What a lie! What a lie! The majority of people in Venezuela had never even heard of Juan Guaido. And yet you said that he's the president, and I believe you still ridiculously say that Juan Guaido is the president of Venezuela. That is an outrage and it's an insult to the democracy and the sovereignty of the people of Venezuela. How dare you do this? You murderer who murdered people in Bolivia. You murderer who supported the sanctions in Venezuela. The sanctions in Venezuela that killed 40,000 people. 40,000 people because of your lies, because of the coup attempt that you've been part of. And you are nothing but a murderer, and you have no shame here to come and talk about human rights, to lecture the whole world, to lecture the whole hemisphere about democracy and the freedom of the press. When Sebastian Moro, an Argentine journalist who is in Bolivia, exposing the truth about the coup, and he was killed. You're here to lecture about media freedom when you install a dictatorship that murders journalists, that murders innocent people, workers, indigenous people, students, you.
There it is, folks. Walter Smolaric fucking killing it, man. I mean, so impressive and so well done. And just did not. I'm sure. Actually, I actually texted with him, and he, like anyone who stands up at these things and forces these asshole leaders to listen to truth, to listen to reality, to listen to their lies, to listen to their hypocrisy, forces them in their face to see and think about, even if just for a second, in the fucking villainous skulls, if it just echoes for a second, the truth about their hypocrisy and lies. Anyone, I was going to say, who stands up at these things usually expects to be tackled by the rent-a-cops, by the fucking douchebags, the fist of the fascist state. Although half the time it's not even the fist, it's just like one finger. It's a sad little guy with a rent-a-cop badge, you know, usually doesn't have a weapon, but it's his job to get you out of there. But in this case, he was not tackled. He was not, you know, a few minutes in, somebody came up and started saying, sir, you've made your point. Sir. And by the way, those fucking sad pieces of shit. I love that they also have to be on camera trying to stop someone from speaking the truth about these villainous cunts that stand up there and destroy lives around the world and never hear anyone speak in their face. Never, almost never in their lives. They go from limo to limo, from black car to black car, to private jet, and almost never have anyone stand up in front of them and say, you're a fucking killer. You're a fucking murderer. And so it's such a powerful moment. It's beautiful. And it you know, just good on him for standing up. And, you know, I talk about how protests, if they're done in a little allowable area outside the building, in a little sidewalk that no one looks at, and the cops say, yeah, that's fine, you can be there for an hour. I talk about how little those mean. They mean something for creating awareness if you have a crowd there. So in the same way, me speaking to you creates awareness. So in that way, they mean something. But in terms of causing a disruption, causing an interruption of business as usual, you have to do something more. And in this case, what Walter did is it's beautiful to stand up and shout in the face of these people. And it doesn't often happen that you can get into these things. Often they have their ways of stopping these fucking villainous leaders, dastardly dick helmets from ever getting to face with people like you or me. I mean, honestly, name one time that Donald Trump or Joe Biden is face to face with someone who might call them to account. Almost never. So often it is hard to get into these things, but in this case, they did get to. And actually, I have another clip for you from the same summit. Actually, it was just after that moment with Walter Smolaric. Oh, and by the way, I should have said this at the top and at the end, but I'll say it here now. You should follow. I did say you should follow Walter Smolaric's show he works on, the Socialist Program. It's a great podcast. But also that was reported by Breakthrough News, which I think he also works with. Breakthrough News does wonderful content, I think, every day of the week. So definitely look up Breakthrough News. And if you can't find it, radindiemedia.com has a bunch from Breakthrough News, so you can find it there. But all right, so Abby Martin, in the thing right after that one you saw, right after Luis Almagro, it was Anthony Blinken, the Secretary of State. Total horrific human being. He is, honestly, I think that in a lot of the foreign policy, a lot of the U.S. foreign policy that we see today, it is him and a team of others that are actually making those calls to create a proxy war in Ukraine. And they're telling Biden what to say for the most part. I'm not saying Biden never has opinions, but there's not a lot there inside Biden anymore. So I assume that these people essentially control him or tell him what will be best. And if he says something, if he says he wants something that they don't think is right, they probably have a way of stopping it from happening. Not that Biden would ever do the right thing. Biden's made his entire career, I think roughly it was 722 years last week that he's been in Congress or in government. 722. Yeah, it was an exciting day. There was a little party. I wasn't invited, but I heard they had a piñata. So, it was all right. I heard it was a little thing. When you get to 722 years in government, the parties start to wane a bit, because they do them every 2 years, I think, at that point. And it's just, it's less exciting because, 2 years earlier was a bigger one, the 720. But anyway, so here is this one's much shorter. It's just 30 seconds or something. And this is Abby Martin. And Abby Martin is, these are shades of gray, but she's behaving more as a journalist. And I respect that. You can't always just filibuster the summit or whatever. But I respect both these styles, Abby asking it as a question and Walter saying, no, I'm not going to question you. I'm going to fucking tell you about your reality that we all know is true that you're denying right now. And that's another thing about this summit was the immense amount of hypocrisy, the immense amount at this summit of talking about treating people right, a lot about journalism and freedom of press and all this shit. Meanwhile, the United States just shut down my show after 8 years, deleting all the videos from YouTube. So yeah, freedom of press. United States has that right too. For those of you, this is the first video you've seen of mine. I'm the most censored comedian in America. Thousands of videos banned on YouTube. And if you want to support my stuff, go to leecamp.net. It will forward you to my locals community, which is an awesome way for us to interact, and you can be a part of that. And I'd love for you to go there. But that point aside, there was all of this talk at the summit about treating journalists right, and we need to stop misinformation. That's the administration's way of saying we need to stop those who are telling the truth about us. We need to stop misinformation. Is what they mean is anything that's not convenient for the ruling elite, that doesn't go along with the ruling elite, that doesn't facilitate the goals and the aims of the ruling elite. That for them is misinformation, when in fact it's the fucking truth. All right. So everything I do is considered misinformation, whereas everything that's put out by your corporate shitbags, your CNNs and your Fox Newses, and your MSNBCs and your NPRs, everything that's put out by those garbage media outlets, that shit is called the truth. That shit is called not misinformation. It's straight up information because it's been fed to them by the State Department without a moment of them going, really? Really? Did Russia really just invade Ukraine without anything happening before that? Really? Is it possible to be opposed to the invasion and also to talk about the fact that we like expanded NATO like wildly onto their borders, pointed missiles at them and funded Nazis and created a coup in 2014? Is it possible to talk about this? Oh, it's not? Okay. Never mind then. Shh, quiet. Everybody quiet. Anyway, here is Abby Martin, the great Abby Martin, questioning of Secretary of State Anthony Blinken.
Secretary Blinken, what about Shireen Abu Akleh? She was murdered by Israeli forces, right? CNN just agreed to this. These are your two greatest allies in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia and Israel. They have murdered American journalists and there have been absolutely no repercussions. And you're sitting up here talking about the freedom of press and democracy. The United States is denying sovereignty to tens of millions of people around the world with draconian sanctions for electing leaders that you do not like. Why is there no accountability for Israel or Saudi Arabia for murdering journalists? It is one of the most dangerous places in the world to be a journalist in Palestine.
I deplore the loss of Shireen. She was a remarkable journalist, an American citizen, as you all know. And there too, we're determined to follow the facts and get to the truth of what happened.
Secretary Blinken, with all due respect.
I'm sorry, with respect, they've not yet been established.
Yes, it has.
No, they've not. We were looking for an independent, credible investigation. When that investigation happens, we will follow the facts wherever they lead. It's as straightforward as that. That has not yet happened, but it's something that we very much want to see happen.
And we'll have time after the panel, of course, to talk more about this.
Bullshit, right? His response is utter fucking horseshit when faced with the reality of the hypocrisy of the United States to talk about journalist freedom and journalists being persecuted around the world. And so Abby brings up the IDF, the Israeli murder of Shireen Abu Akleh, a journalist who has done a lot of great work on Palestine, and she was straight up assassinated just recently. And the idea that Blinken can look anyone in the eye and go, we're waiting to see if we want to get the final report on what really happened. It'll take roughly 7 to 17 years, and then we'll discuss that about and then we'll do a reanalysis of the final report once we have that. Because really, we need to find out. Fuck you. Okay? These are straight up killers or the supporters of killers, and they know absolutely, everyone knows that the IDF assassinated Shireen Abu Akleh. It's not even a question. But of course, he can't say that because the U.S. and Israel are butt buddies, right? They are sewn together at the hip. They are one and the same. They are part of the U.S. empire. And there's nothing that Israel can do as an apartheid state. They can assassinate children, assassinate the elderly, assassinate people with press written on their helmets and on their vests, assassinate children, fucking children. You know, the short ones that they were shooting on the Great March of Return? Yeah, it's funny. We thought those terrorists with the rocks seemed kind of short. But we thought maybe the Palestinians had put together a little person army and they were just sending them at us. And we didn't know it was children. We thought it was little person army. No, you fucking knew what you were doing and you keep doing it. And then on top of that, they attacked the funerals of each of these journalists that they kill. They attacked Abu Akleh's funeral to the point that the pallbearers, the people holding the coffin, dropped the coffin at one point. And that's the background of what is going on when Abby Martin questions Anthony Blinken at this ridiculous fake puppet show of a summit where they say they care about journalists. Meanwhile, the United States persecutes Julian Assange, tortured him for 10 years already, and continues to, and wants to extradite him to the United States so they can be tortured forever. The most accurate journalist to ever live. Literally, Julian Assange and WikiLeaks have never printed a single thing that was false. Not a single thing that was false. Fucking Anderson Cooper can't print his name without a retraction. Fucking Fox News has a retraction on their opening sequence when it says Fox News, it says the most reliable name in news. And then they have to put a little asterisk at the bottom and say, not really. They have a retraction on their slogan, okay? These people, these mainstream media outlets have retractions on their fucking logos and their slogans. The number one name in news. Yeah, the number one name for bullshit. Okay, if it said that, if you want to put in parentheses for bullshit, then that would be accurate. They literally can't get through their slogan without lying to your faces. Meanwhile, Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, most reliable outlet, most reliable journalist to ever live, is being tortured by the United States. And the United States, Anthony Blinken and Joe Biden and all these fucking clowns, including the Republicans, it just so happens the Democrats are in the office right now. They sit there with this hypocrisy saying they care about press freedom. Meanwhile, they shut down RT America. They shut down my show. 1,000 videos deleted from YouTube. Go ahead, anybody who feels like it right now, go ahead and go to youtube.com/redacted tonight, my television show. See if you see anything there. I bet you see a big red logo that says not available in your country. Not available in your country means not available anywhere. And not available anywhere because, they won't tell you. Because the U.S. is censoring me and anything that holds them accountable. And if you're not being censored, if you're not being attacked, if you're not on the fringes of these events, as Abby Martin is, as Walter Smolaric is, as Eugene Puryear is, and Breakthrough News who were there, if you're not on the fringes of these summits, of these events, then you are the fucking part of the problem. If you aren't on the fringes, there's a reason for that. If you're being accepted in, if you're being given the press passes and you're being given the interviews, if you're interviewing Madeleine Albright like the Young Turks did and not asking a single tough question of them, then you're on the inside of this fucking ruling, villainous, blood-stained administration. You're part of the problem. And that's a simple fact. That's a simple fact. So I'd say God bless, but God bless Abby and Walter. But I need to come up with a new term because as an atheist, I need to I don't know, Ra bless, Joe Pesci bless. Maybe we can have a vote on my my locals page on what should replace God bless. I don't know, Thanos bless. Abby and Walter. No, that sounds like I want them dead. That's terrible. Not Thanos. Anyway, we'll have a vote on what can replace God bless. Speaking of votes, I do polls over on my locals page, leecamp.net, if you want to become a member. And by the way, you can become a member without paying even the minimum. You just hit something like not right now or something like that when it's asking you that question as you sign up. And you won't have access to everything, but you'll have access to a lot of things. So you can go to leecamp.net. And I'm about to show you one of the polls I just did at locals. But before I do that, two things. One is, if you want to follow Abby Martin, if you like what she did, definitely look up Empire Files. It's on YouTube. Empire Files, Abby Martin. And you'll find her stuff at Rad Indie Media as well. So Rad Indie Media is like a general place where you can just collect all of this great media every single day of the week if you want, and it's free. The other thing I need to tell you is the rest of this live stream, another half hour roughly, is going to be at rumble.com/LeeCamp. If you're already at Rumble, then you have nothing to worry about. It'll just continue. If you're on Facebook, YouTube, Rockfin, then come over to rumble.com/LeeCamp. I've been forced to move there because, as I said, YouTube can delete my channels at any time. They already deleted my biggest one, youtube.com/redacted tonight. So I have to create something that won't be censored, that will be continue to show my videos to you. And that's rumble.com/LeeCamp. And if you want to support my work, LeeCamp.net. So, all right, folks, I am headed over there, but thank you. I do these live streams regularly, and I hope you will join me more often at LeeCamp.net. You can find out about all of them. They will continue, and I have a supporter-only Q&A every Friday at noon